The asteroid field was a graveyard of rocks and ice. Some were small, no bigger than a person. Others were huge, large enough to crush a ship like a boot crushing a bug. Connor flew between them, pushing the dusty horizon to her limit stop behind him. The 3 Groth interceptors followed. "Human," the Groth commander said through the speakers. "This chase is pointless. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Continue to run, and we will make you suffer." Connor did not answer. He was too busy flying. The dusty horizon twisted and turned through the asteroid field. Rocks scraped against the hull with horrible screeching sounds. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The ship was screaming at him that this was dangerous, that he should stop, that he was going to die. He ignored it all. One of the Groth ships was not as skilled. It moved too close to a spinning asteroid and caught a glancing blow. The ship wobbled and fell behind, its hull damaged. 2 ships left. Lyra appeared in the cockpit doorway. "Kovar has an idea." "Who is Kovar?" "He was an engineer on Nethara. He worked on power systems for our cities." She pulled an older male Falari into the cockpit. His fur was gray with age, but his eyes were sharp. "Your mining laser," Kovar said without introduction. "It is weak. It cannot hurt those ships." "I know that. But if we overload it, we can create a single powerful burst, enough to disable or destroy one enemy vessel." Connor looked at him. "Can you do that?" "Yes, but it will burn out the laser completely. We will only have 1 shot." "Do it." Kovar nodded and left. Lyra stayed behind. "What can I do?" she asked. "Sit in the co-pilot's seat. Watch the scanner. Tell me if anything gets too close." Lyra sat down and studied the controls. She learned quickly, her eyes moving over the displays and buttons. Within minutes, she understood the basic systems. The Groth ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy shot past the dusty horizon, missing by inches. Connor pulled the ship into a sharp turn, hiding behind a large asteroid. "They are circling around," Lyra reported. "1 on each side. They want to trap us. What do we do?" Connor thought quickly. The dusty horizon could not win a straight fight, but maybe it did not have to. "There is a large asteroid ahead," he said. "I am going to fly toward it. When we get close, I am going to cut the engines and spin the ship around." "Why?" "Because they will not expect it. They will think we are going to crash. But at the last second, we will fire the overloaded laser at whichever ship is closest." Lyra's amber eyes widened. "That is insane." "Yes, that is why it might work." He pushed the engines forward. The dusty horizon shot toward a massive asteroid, bigger than any building on Earth. The Groth ships followed, confused by the strange move. "Connor," Lyra said, "the asteroid is getting very close." "I know." "Very, very close." "I know." The rock filled the entire view screen. Connor could see every crater, every crack, every detail on its surface. In 3 seconds, they would crash. In 2 seconds. In 1. Connor cut the engines and fired the maneuvering thrusters. The dusty horizon spun around, her nose pointing backward at the pursuing ships. "Now," he shouted into the intercom. Kovar fired the overloaded mining laser. A beam of brilliant white light shot from the dusty horizon. It was brighter than anything Connor had ever seen. It struck the lead Groth ship directly in its engine section. The enemy ship exploded in a ball of fire, and debris. Connor turned the ship and flew away from the asteroid with seconds to spare. The remaining Groth ship opened fire, angry and desperate. A blast hit the dusty horizon on the port side. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the cockpit. "We are venting atmosphere in Section 3. Lyra shouted, reading the damage reports. "Seal it off." Lyra's hands moved over the controls. She sealed the damaged section, stopping the air from escaping. But the ship was hurt badly. They could not take many more hits. The last Groth ship closed in. Connor had nothing left. No weapons, no tricks, no miracles. Then a new signal appeared on his scanner. And then another, and another. Human vessel, a new voice said through the speakers. This is Captain Derek Shaw of the merchant ship Lucky Break. We picked up your distress signal about an hour ago. Sorry, we are late. Traffic was terrible. Connor looked at the scanner in disbelief. 4 human ships had appeared from behind a nearby moon. They were not warships. They were cargo haulers and mining vessels, just like the dusty horizon. But they were big, and they were armed with industrial equipment that could tear through steel. The Groth ship suddenly found itself surrounded. Now then, Derek Shaw said cheerfully. I count 1 Groth interceptor and 4 human ships. I am not a math expert, but I think those numbers favor us. What do you think, Groth Commander? There was silence on the communication channel. Then the Groth Commander spoke, his voice filled with hatred. This is not over, human. The Groth do not forget. The Groth do not forgive. We will find you. We will find all of you. Yeah. Run along now before we decide to turn you into scrap metal. The Groth ship turned and flew away at maximum speed. It disappeared into the darkness, leaving the asteroid field behind. Connor sat back in his chair. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. He was alive. They were all alive. Thank you, he said into the communicator. I do not know who you are or why you helped us, but thank you. No need to thank us, Derek Shaw replied. We humans have to stick together out here. Besides, we heard your story. A man who spent his last credit to save 37 people from being eaten? That is the kind of story that spreads fast. How did you hear about it? News travels in space, friend. And some news travels faster than light. Now, I think you and I should talk face to face. Your ship looks like it is about to fall apart. We have supplies and mechanics who can help. Follow us to our meeting point. The 4 human ships turned and began to fly toward a distant moon. Connor followed, too tired and too grateful to ask questions. Lyra touched his arm. You did it, she said. You saved us again. Connor shook his head. I almost got us killed. If those ships had not appeared, we would all be dead right now. But they did appear, because other humans heard your story and decided to help. Do you not understand what that means? What? It means you are not alone. It means that what you did matters. It means that one act of kindness can create more acts of kindness. Connor thought about that as the dusty horizon limped through space toward the human ships. He thought about his father's words and the choice he had made on Velix Station. He thought about the Falari sleeping in his cargo bay and the enemy, who had sworn to destroy him. And for the first time since this all began, he started to believe that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. Connor Blake had been flying through space for 3 long years. He moved cargo from one station to another, visiting places that most people had never heard of. His ship was old and tired, just like him. The name painted on the side said Dusty Horizon, and that name fit perfectly. Everything about his life felt dusty and worn out. He checked his account balance for the 10th time that day. 412 credits. That was all he had left in the whole universe. Not enough to fix his ship properly. Not enough to buy good food. Barely enough to keep flying for another month. The Dusty Horizon docked at Velix Station with a loud clunk. Connor had heard stories about this place. Traders came here to buy and sell things that were not allowed anywhere else. Illegal weapons, strange drugs, stolen technology. He did not like coming here, but the fuel cells were cheap, and cheap was all he could afford. He walked down the ramp and into the station. The air smelled bad, like old meat and chemicals mixed together. Aliens of every shape and size pushed past him. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had too many eyes or too many arms. Connor kept his head down and tried not to look at anyone for too long. The upper levels of the station looked almost normal. There were shops and food stalls and places to rest. But Connor needed the lower levels. That was where the real deals happened. That was where people did not ask questions. He took a lift down into the belly of Velix Station. The lights grew dimmer. The crowds grew rougher. He saw weapons on every hip and scars on every face. This was not a place for the weak. Connor turned a corner and stopped walking. His feet would not move. His brain would not work. He just stood there and stared at something he had never expected to see. Cages. Dozens of metal cages lined up in rows. And inside those cages stood creatures that looked almost human. They were females, all of them. Their bodies were slim and covered in soft fur of different colors. Some had fur like gold. Some had fur like midnight black. Some had patterns of white and brown. Their ears were pointed and sat on top of their heads like a cat. Their eyes were large and beautiful, filled with colors like amber and green and deep blue. But those beautiful eyes were filled with fear. Some of the creatures were crying. Some were holding each other. Some just sat in the corners of their cages and stared at nothing. Connor felt his stomach turn over. He had seen bad things in his travels. He had seen violence and crime and cruelty. But this was different. This was wrong in a way that made his bones ache. A large alien stood in front of the cages. He was a Groth, Connor realized. The Groth were known throughout the galaxy as traders and merchants. They were also known for having no morals at all. They would sell anything to anyone if the price was right. This Groth had gray scales that looked like old leather. His eyes were yellow with black slits in the middle. When he opened his mouth to speak, Connor saw rows of small, sharp teeth. "Come closer, come closer," the Groth shouted. "Fresh Falari stock, just arrived from the outer territories. Greater protein, my friends. Their meat is tender and sweet. Their bones make the finest broth in the galaxy. 100 credits per unit. A bargain you will not find anywhere else." Connor felt like he might be sick. Falari. That was what these creatures were called. And this monster was selling them as food. He looked at the crowd gathered around the cages. Some aliens were nodding and pointing at different Falari. They were shopping. They were choosing which one they wanted to eat. One Groth buyer was poking a Falari through the bars with a stick. She cried out in pain and fear. The buyer laughed and said something about how her legs would make good steaks. Connor's hands became fists at his sides. He wanted to hurt someone. He wanted to scream. But what could he do? He was one human with no weapons and no money. He could not fight a whole station full of criminals. He started to turn away. There was nothing he could do here. He should just find his fuel cells and leave. He should forget what he had seen and move on with his miserable life. But then, he saw her. She was younger than the others, or at least she looked younger. Her fur was pale silver, so light that it almost seemed to glow in the dim station lights. Her eyes were the color of amber honey. And unlike the others, she was not crying. She was not shaking with fear. She was looking directly at him. Their eyes met across the crowded market. Connor felt something pass between them. He did not know what it was. Understanding, maybe. Or hope. Or just two souls recognizing each other in a dark place. The silver Falari held his gaze. She did not look away. And in her eyes, Connor saw a question. A plea. A challenge. Are you going to help us? Or are you going to walk away like everyone else? Connor looked at the cages. He counted quickly. 37 Falari. 37 living, thinking, feeling beings who were going to be slaughtered and eaten, unless someone did something. He checked his account balance again. 412 credits. The Groth merchant was asking 100 credits per Falari. Connor did not have enough to buy even 5 of them, but he remembered something his father had told him years ago. Back on Earth, his father had been a simple man who worked in a factory and never traveled beyond his own city. But he had wisdom that Connor had never forgotten. "Son," his father had said, "there will come a day when you have to choose between what is easy and what is right. On that day, I hope you choose right, even if it costs you everything." Connor Blake took a deep breath. He straightened his shoulders. He stopped thinking about fuel cells and money and all the practical problems that would come later. He walked toward the cages. The crowd parted around him. Maybe they saw something in his face. Maybe they saw the look in his eyes. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as strange creatures. Unpredictable. Sometimes dangerous. Most aliens preferred to stay out of their way. Connor stopped in front of the Groth merchant. The alien looked down at him with those yellow eyes and smiled a smile full of sharp teeth. "Ah, human customer. Excellent, excellent. Which unit interests you? I have all colors, all sizes. The golden ones are popular for their flavor, but personally, I recommend the silver one in the back. Very rare, very tender." Connor looked at the silver Falari. She was still watching him. Waiting God, he turned back to the merchant and said words that would change his life forever. "I want to buy them all." 2 weeks passed in the darkness between the stars. The dusty horizon drifted through empty space, running on minimum power to save fuel. Every light that could be turned off was turned off. Every system that could be shut down was shut down. Connor had calculated that they had enough fuel for maybe another month. If they were very careful, food was a bigger problem. The ship's emergency supplies had lasted 5 days. After that, Connor had started trading whatever he could spare. His spare clothes went first, then his tools, then parts of the ship that were not absolutely necessary. He traded with passing merchant vessels, begging for scraps in exchange for anything of value. The Falari ate very little. Their bodies were designed to survive on small amounts of food, but even they were getting thinner. Even they were getting weak. Connor stopped eating 3 days ago. He told the others that he was not hungry. He lied. Lyra found him in the engine room one night. He was trying to fix a coolant leak that had been getting worse. His hands were shaking from hunger, and he kept dropping his tools. "You should rest," she said. "I cannot rest. If this leak gets worse, the engine will overheat. If the engine overheats, we all die." Lyra picked up the tool he had dropped and handed it to him. "Let me help." Connor shook his head. "You do not know anything about ship engines." "I know more than you think." Lyra took the tool from his hand and looked at the leak. She studied it for a moment, her amber eyes moving over the pipes and wires. Then she reached in and adjusted something Connor had not even noticed. The leak stopped. Connor stared at her. "How did you do that?" "On my world, I was studying to be a systems architect. I was going to design buildings and machines. I was good at it." She paused. "Before the Groth came, what happened to your world? You never told me the full story." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she sat down on a crate and began to speak. "Nethera was beautiful. We had forests that stretched for thousands of miles. We had oceans filled with fish and plants. We had cities built into the mountains where my people lived in peace for generations. The Groth found us 12 years ago. They said they wanted to trade. They said they wanted to be friends. But really, they wanted the minerals beneath our soil. Rare minerals that could be used to power their weapons. When we refused to sell our land, they took it by force. Their ships came in the night. Their soldiers marched through our cities. They killed anyone who tried to fight back." Connor sat down beside her. "I am sorry. The killing was not the worst part. The worst part was what came after. The Groth realized that our people had value too, as workers, as entertainment, and as food. She said the last word like it was poison in her mouth. Some of my people were sent to work in the mines. Some were sold to wealthy Groth as pets and servants. And some were sent to the markets, like the one where you found us. Connor felt sick. How many of your people are left? I do not know. Thousands, maybe, scattered across the galaxy, living in cages and chains in fear. Lyra's eyes were wet, but no tears fell. I thought I would die in that market. I thought I would become someone's dinner. Then you appeared. I did not do anything special. I just could not walk away. That is exactly what makes you special. Lyra looked at him with an expression he could not read. Most beings would have walked away. Most beings would have told themselves that it was not their problem. But you stayed. You fought. You gave up everything for strangers. Connor did not know what to say. He was not used to being called special. He was not used to being anyone's hero. Your people, Lyra continued. Tell me more about them. Tell me about Earth. So Connor talked. He talked about his home planet and its blue oceans and green forests. He talked about his family and his childhood and the dreams he used to have. He talked about human history, both the good parts and the bad parts. We have made terrible mistakes, he admitted. We have fought wars over nothing. We have hurt each other over the color of our skin or the gods we worship. We have done things that I am ashamed of. But you learned from those mistakes. Some of us did. We wrote laws that said all people must be treated equally. We built systems to protect the weak from the strong. We are still learning, still growing, still trying to be better. Lyra nodded slowly. Perhaps that is what makes humans different from the Groth. The Groth have no shame. They do not believe they can do wrong. They think that strength is the only thing that matters. Strength is important, Connor said, but it means nothing without compassion. Power without kindness is just cruelty. I wish more beings in the galaxy thought like you. The ship's alarm began to sound. Connor jumped to his feet and ran to the cockpit. Lyra followed close behind. On the scanner, 3 shapes were approaching fast. Connor recognized their design immediately. Groth interceptors. Military ships. Fast and deadly. They found us, Connor said. How? I do not know. But we need to move. Now. He grabbed the controls and pushed the engines to full power. The dusty horizon groaned and shook. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The ship was never designed for this kind of speed. The Groth ships closed in. They were faster, stronger, better armed. There was no way to outrun them. Human vessel. A voice crackled through the communication system. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are carrying stolen property. Connor gripped the controls tighter. Those are not property. They are people. Under Groth law, Falaria classified as livestock. You have violated our trade laws. You have insulted a licensed merchant. Surrender now, or you will be destroyed. Connor looked at Lyra. Her face was pale beneath her silver fur. Behind them, in the cargo bay, he could hear the other Falari crying out in fear. What do we do? Lyra asked. Connor thought about his options. He could surrender. The Groth would take the Falari back into slavery. They would probably kill him. Or he could fight. But the dusty horizon had no weapons. Just a small mining laser used for breaking apart asteroids. Fight or surrender. Those were the only choices. Connor chose to fight. Go to the cargo bay, he told Lyra. Tell your people to hold on tight. And find anyone who knows anything about engineering. We are going to need help. What are you going to do? Connor looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead, he could see an asteroid field. Rocks and debris floating in the darkness. Something very stupid, he said. The dusty horizon turned toward the asteroids and flew straight into danger. The Groth merchant stared at Connor for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. All of them? The merchant said. You want to buy all 37 units? Little human, do you have any idea how much that would cost? I have 400 credits, Connor said. I will give you every single one. The laughter spread through the crowd. Other aliens joined in, pointing at Connor and making jokes in languages he did not understand. The Groth merchant's yellow eyes sparkled with amusement. 400 credits for 37 units? That is less than 11 credits each. My costs are higher than that. The cages alone cost more than that. Your costs include paying bribes to station security, Connor said. His voice was calm and steady. Your costs include breaking about 15 different galactic laws. I wonder what the Galactic Commerce Authority would say if they knew what was happening here. The laughter stopped. The merchant's smile disappeared. His yellow eyes became hard and cold. You threaten me, human? I am offering you a deal, Connor replied. 400 credits, and you walk away clean. No trouble. No investigation. No questions. Or I send a message to the GCA right now, and you spend the next 50 years in a prison asteroid while they look at every sale you have ever made. It was a lie. Connor had no connection to the Galactic Commerce Authority. He had no power at all. But humans had a reputation in the galaxy. They were known for being stubborn. They were known for being clever. They were known for doing crazy things that no one expected. The Groth could not be sure if Connor was bluffing or not. Seconds passed. The crowd watched in silence. The Falari in the cages held their breath. Finally, the merchant snarled. His scales rippled with anger, but he nodded his head. Take them, he said. Take them and leave this station. But remember my face, human. Remember my name. I am called Vrex, and you have made an enemy today. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will find you. And I will make you regret this moment. Connor transferred his 400 credits. He watched his account drop to 12. 12 credits. Not enough to buy a meal. Not enough to buy fuel. Not enough for anything at all, Dot. But when the cage doors opened, he did not care about money anymore. The Falari stepped out slowly. They moved like they did not believe what was happening. Some of them were shaking. Some of them were crying with relief. They huddled together, holding hands and touching each other to make sure they were really free. The silver-furred female walked toward Connor. Up close, he could see that she was thin. Too thin. Her fur was dull from bad food and dirty water. But her eyes were bright and sharp. There was intelligence in those amber eyes. There was strength. I'm called Lyra, she said. Her voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. You have saved us. But I must ask you a question. Why? Why would you do this? You do not know us. You have nothing to gain. Why would you give everything you have for strangers? Connor looked at her. He looked at the other Falari gathering behind her. 37 faces full of confusion and fear and tiny sparks of hope. Because where I come from, he said, we do not eat people. Lyra tilted her head to one side. Her pointed ears twitched. Your species does not consume other sentient beings? No. Well, we did some terrible things in our past. We hurt each other. We enslaved each other. We did things I am not proud of. But we learned. We grew. We decided that every thinking being deserves to be treated with respect. And this is something all humans believe? Connor shook his head. Not all of us. Some humans are cruel and selfish. Some humans would walk past your cages without a second look. But most of us try to be good. Most of us believe that when we see something wrong, we should try to make it right. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and touched Connor's hand. Her fingers were slender and covered in soft fur. Her touch was warm. "Then your species has wisdom," she said. "More wisdom than most of the galaxy." Connor felt his face grow hot. He was not used to being praised. He was not used to being thanked. He was just a cargo hauler who made a stupid decision. "We need to go," he said. That merchant was not joking. "He will send people after us. We need to get to my ship and leave this station before things get worse." He led the group through the station. 37 Falari followed him in a long line, staying close together for safety. Other aliens stopped and stared as they passed. Some looked confused. Some looked angry. A few looked almost impressed. The walk to the docking bay took 15 minutes. Every second felt like an hour. Connor kept waiting for Groth soldiers to appear, for alarms to sound, for everything to fall apart. But they reached the dusty horizon without trouble. Connor's ship was old and ugly. The paint was peeling. The hull was covered in dents and scratches. Half the lights did not work. But when the Falari saw it, they looked at it like it was the most beautiful thing in the universe. "This is your vessel?" Lyra asked. "Yes, she is not much, but she flies. That is all that matters right now." Connor opened the cargo bay doors and led the Falari inside. The ship was designed for a crew of 3 people. It was never meant to hold 38, but they would have to make it work somehow. "Find a place to sit," Connor said. "Hold on to something solid. We are leaving now." He ran to the cockpit and started the engines. The dusty horizon groaned and shook. Warning lights flashed on the control panel. The ship was telling him that it did not want to fly today. "Come on, old girl," Connor whispered. "One more time. Just get us out of here." The engines caught. The ship lifted off the docking platform. Connor pushed the throttle forward and aimed for the stars. Velik Station grew smaller behind them. Connor watched it on his rear camera, waiting for pursuit ships to appear, waiting for missiles to lock onto his hull, waiting for the Groth to follow through on their threats. But nothing came. At least not yet. He set a course for deep space, away from the main shipping lanes. They would need to hide for a while. They would need time to figure out what to do next. Lyra appeared in the doorway of the cockpit. She moved quietly, like a shadow. "Your ship is very full," she said. "We are trying to make space for everyone, but it is difficult." "I know. I am sorry. This is not what any of you deserve. You saved our lives. We are not complaining." She paused. "But I must tell you something. The Falari will need food. We have not eaten properly in many days. Some of us are sick. Some are weak." Connor checked his account. 12 credits. Not enough to buy food for one person, let alone 38. "I will figure something out," he said. "I always do." Lyra studied him with those amber eyes. "You have no plan, do you? You spent everything you had to buy us, and now you do not know what comes next." Connor almost laughed. "No, I have no plan. I saw you in those cages, and I stopped thinking. I just acted. That was very foolish. I know. It was also very brave." Lyra sat down in the co-pilot's chair. "My people have been slaves for many years. The Groth conquered our world when I was just a child. They took everything from us. Our homes, our families, our freedom. But in all that time, no one ever tried to help us. No one ever saw us as worth saving. Until today," Connor said. "Until today." Lyra looked out the window at the stars. "You are a strange creature, Connor Blake, but I think I like you." Connor smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in a long time. "We should get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be hard." We have no money, no food, and a Groth merchant who wants us dead. Things are going to get complicated. Things are already complicated, Lyra replied. But for the first time in years, I believe they might also get better. She left the cockpit to rejoin her people. Connor sat alone in the pilot's chair, staring at the endless darkness of space. He had 12 credits to his name. He had a broken ship full of refugees. He had enemies hunting him. By any reasonable measure, his life was ruined, but somehow he felt better than he had in years. 3 months had passed since the battle in the asteroid field. Connor Blake stood on the surface of a small moon called New Haven. The sky above him was purple and orange, colored by the light of 2 distant suns. The air was clean and fresh, filled with the smell of growing things dot around him. The Falari were building a new home. Small houses made of local stone were rising from the ground. Gardens filled with vegetables and flowers stretched across the hillside. Children, the first generation born in freedom, played in the grass while their parents worked dot. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was everything Connor had hoped for. The journey to this place had not been easy. After the battle, Derek Shaw and the other human merchants had taken Connor and the Falari to a secret meeting station. There, they had told him something that changed everything. Word of his story had spread across the galaxy. Humans everywhere had heard about the cargo hauler, who spent his last credit to save 37 strangers from being sold as food. They had heard about the chase through the asteroid field. They had heard about the brave stand against the Groth, and they wanted to help. Donations came pouring in. Credits from human traders who believed in what Connor had done. Supplies from human colonies who wanted to support the refugees. Even ships and equipment from human companies who saw this as a chance to make a difference. But it was not just humans who helped. Other species had heard the story too. Velith merchants who felt ashamed that the slave market had happened in their territory. Dracorian warriors who respected courage in battle. Even some Groth who disagreed with what their people were doing. Together, they found New Haven, a small moon in a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the main trade routes and far from Groth territory. A place where the Falari could start over. Lyra walked up to stand beside Connor. Her silver fur shone in the light of the twin suns. She looked healthier now, stronger. The months of good food and safety had transformed her. "You are thinking too much again," she said. Connor smiled. "How do you know?" "Because you always get that look on your face when you are thinking. Your forehead wrinkles and your eyes go distant. I was just looking at what we have built. It is hard to believe this is real." Lyra nodded. "Sometimes I wake up in the morning and think I am still in that cage. Then I see the sun coming through my window, and I remember that I am free. Because of you, not just because of me, because of everyone who helped. But it started with you. One human who refused to look away. One person who said that our lives were worth more than his credits." Connor did not know how to respond to that. He was still not comfortable being called a hero. He had just done what felt right. A ship appeared in the sky above them. Connor recognized it immediately. The second chance, a gift from the coalition of human merchants who had decided he needed a proper vessel. It was twice the size of the dusty horizon, with room for passengers and cargo and everything he might need. The ship landed nearby, and Derek Shaw climbed out. The older captain had become a good friend over the past 3 months. He walked toward them with a smile on his weathered face. "News from the outer territories," Derek said. "A Groth transport ship crashed on a moon near the Karax system. The survivors are stranded. 30 Falari, maybe more." Lyra's ears stood up straight. "Survivors? Are they safe?" "For now. But the Groth will send a recovery ship soon. If we want to save them, we need to move fast." Connor looked at the second chance. Then he looked at Lyra. Then he looked at the Falari village spread out before him. How many volunteers do we have? Lyra smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of determination. All of them. Every Falari on New Haven wants to help save our brothers and sisters. We are done being victims. We are ready to fight. Then let us go. Within the hour, the second chance was loaded with volunteers. Falari who had once been slaves were now rescue workers. Falari who had once been helpless were now strong and determined. They had been saved, and now they wanted to save others. Connor sat in the captain's chair and opened a communication channel. He spoke on a frequency that could be heard across 1,000 stations and 100 worlds. This is Connor Blake of the ship Second Chance. If you are lost in the darkness, we are coming. If you are scared and alone, we are coming. If no one else will help you, we will help you. Because humanity does not look away. Not anymore. Not ever again. The ship lifted off from New Haven and flew toward the stars. Behind them, the Falari village grew smaller until it disappeared from view. Ahead of them, danger waited. The Groth would not give up their prey easily. There would be fighting. There would be sacrifice. There might be death, but there would also be hope. In the months that followed, the Second Chance became famous throughout the galaxy. Stories spread about the human captain and his Falari crew who traveled from system to system, rescuing the enslaved and the forgotten. They saved Falari from Groth transports. They freed workers from illegal mines. They protected refugees from pirates and slavers. Other ships joined them. UN vessels from every corner of the galaxy, crewed by people who believed in what Connor had started. Velith traders who wanted to make up for the sins of their species. Even some former slaves who had escaped on their own and wanted to help others do the same. It was not an army. It was something better. It was a movement. 5 years later, Connor stood on the deck of his ship and looked out at a fleet of rescue vessels. 50 ships flying under the banner of the Second Chance, ready to answer any call for help. Lyra stood beside him, as she always did. She was the fleet's chief engineer now, responsible for keeping all 50 ships running. She was also Connor's closest friend and his most trusted advisor. "Do you remember the day we met?" she asked. "Every day of my life. You were in a cage, and I was down to my last 400 credits. You looked so scared, so determined. I could see in your eyes that you were about to do something crazy. Was it worth it?" Lyra gestured at the fleet around them. She gestured at the hundreds of crew members going about their work. She thought about the thousands of lives they had saved, the thousands more they would save in the years to come. "You spent your last credit to save 37 strangers," she said. "And because of that, a whole movement was born. Thousands of people are free today because of what you did. Millions might be free tomorrow." She turned to look at him, her amber eyes bright with emotion. "So yes, Connor Blake, it was worth it. Every credit, every risk, every moment of fear and doubt and struggle. It was all worth it." Connor smiled and turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, people were suffering. Somewhere out there, people needed help. And he was going to find them because that was what humans did. They saw wrong and they tried to make it right. They saw evil and they stood against it. They saw strangers in cages and they spent their last credit to set them free. Not because it was easy, not because it was smart, but because it was right. And in a galaxy full of darkness, sometimes one small light was enough to change everything. The Second Chance flew on, carrying hope into the endless night.